Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast, where we bring unique insight and analysis following your favorite teams at the professional and collegiate levels. I'm your host, Chase Yantz. We got our panel here today. Brady down in the bottom right corner. Brady, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. Excited to get this interview going. Definitely ready to go. How are you doing, Chase?
I'm doing fine, man. It's a beautiful day out here in Ohio, so cannot complain at all. We'll send it down to the bottom. Ben, what's up? How you doing for Indianapolis?
Doing good, doing good. Same weather, pretty much. So just chilling.
Yep,
Yes,
there
sir.
you go. Yep, can't get anything wrong with that. And then we got over to my right. We got Steve Wyche from NFL Network. Steve, thanks for taking time out of your day to come on the show.
Chase, you didn't get the memo, man. Everybody else is wearing red, and you come in here with a Bengal shirt. You're kind of like tipping the scale, bro.
Well, I know. I got this Ohio State on with a little red there, but
There you go.
Can't
No,
really
thanks for having me
complain
on, guys. It's really cool, man. I appreciate you guys thinking of me.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We really do.
Yep, we appreciate you taking time out of the day and everything, and we're not going to waste any time because we know you got a little busy schedule and all that. But I want to get a little background information on you for some people that they basically know a lot of who you are, but just a little background information and how you got started into the sports reporting and media world, if you may.
Yeah, I mean, look, growing up when I was a kid, I mean, it's something I always wanted to do. My father, he worked at the NBC affiliate. I grew up outside of St. Louis, so he worked at the NBC affiliate in St. Louis. He wasn't on air; he was in sales. But I always wanted to do this, get into broadcasting, be a sportscaster. I wanted to be the next Brian Gumbel. And I also sucked at math and science. So anything that had to do with those two subjects was not going to qualify me to do well in life. So when I was in high school, I was a sports editor at the student newspaper, eventually the editor of the paper. Went to University of Missouri to play football. Wasn't very good. I was hoping to get into journalism school there. That didn't work out. Transferred to Howard University, stopped playing football, got in journalism school there, worked as sports editor of the student paper. Editor-in-chief of the student paper. I graduated with a print degree. I'm a long-time writer. And so after I graduated, I worked at newspapers in Richmond, Virginia, Miami, Florida, Washington, D.C., and in Atlanta, covering everything from high school sports starting out to small colleges to major colleges to the Dolphins to the Miami Heat. Covered NBA for a long time. And then transitioned back to the NFL when I got to Atlanta. And then during the whole in 2007, it was the biggest year of chaos in Atlanta. Michael Vick, dogfighting investigation. I hired Bobby Petrino as a head coach. That season was a dumpster fire on top of a dumpster fire in the middle of a dumpster fire. And so, I was getting interviewed a lot because of all the chaos that was going on down here. People say, hey, this guy can do a little TV. And the NFL Network was one of several people who were interested, but they pulled the trigger and offered me the job. So since 2008, I have been with them. I was a remote reporter based in Atlanta until 2011. Moved out to our LA headquarters in Los Angeles. We're doing a cross-reference of studio and remote stuff. So it's really cool because, I get to do a lot of different things. Besides, remote reporting like I've been doing during training camp and some studio stuff, where on some of our different programming, I do some special projects. Like our Hall of Fame coverages and things like that, a lot of social justice types of projects. And I also do get to do preseason games for the Falcons. I'm one of the two analysts in the booth. So that's really cool because there's nothing like being in the booth, on game day. There's nothing that compares to that rush and that constant newness and excitement. So kind of covered all bases, but I'm one of the few people who I know of that is able to do something that I really wanted to do since I was a kid. I worked my tail off. I really pursued it. I was relentless. And the fact that I'm here, caught a lot of breaks, met a lot of the right people, but also put myself in position for both of those things to happen.
That's awesome stuff to hear, though. And obviously, you cannot plan your road exactly as you would think it would be planned as you're going down. Obviously, you said you went to Missouri to play football, and then you went over east to Howard and ended up down in Miami doing a lot of reporting for the Dolphins and even the Heat and the basketball side of things. How was it reporting for the Heat, though, when it comes to a basketball standpoint back in that time?
It was awesome. It was the best because, when you cover the NBA, back then you're sitting courtside, right? So when all these dudes are like checking in, Michael Jordan coming to the check-in table, I'm right there. Scottie Pippen, all these guys. And the Heat was really good then. I mean, this is when the first go-around, they had Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway and Dan Marley and Jamal Mashburn. They had this great rivalry with the Knicks. Orlando had Shaq and Penny Hardaway. So, like, every day I'm seeing all this great basketball, and you realize how incredible these athletes are because these dudes are like 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", playing 3 times a week, getting after that. And for as much as, the athleticism and the specimens of football players are, when you see guys this tall who are able to run like gazelles and jump out of the gym, it's amazing. And the things that happen too, because in the NBA, this is what really kind of differentiates it too. The players and coaches have guaranteed contracts. So they're not afraid to pop off. I mean, they're not afraid to say certain things in the media that NFL players who don't have guaranteed contracts are a little more reluctant to say. And the fact that you're dealing with 13 players and 3 or 4 coaches and a general manager, you're dealing with a much smaller number of people, but a much higher volume of games. So it's constantly fresh, constantly going on. So it is absolutely to have a courtside seat every night to see some of the greatest players to ever play. The access, it was an absolute blast being able to cover the NBA.
Definitely sounds like it. I mean, you've been all over the place, down in Miami, throughout the United States, and even some awesome access, like working, on NFL Network and with the Atlanta Falcons, even doing all the preseason games and the work inside Flowery Branch and all. Just how's that been going for Atlanta Falcons camp before we get over to the AFC West? Because we got to talk about this division.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there 3 times. I've also visited the Raiders, the Niners, the Browns. I spent a lot of time at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yep.
But the Falcons, look, they're a team definitely in transition. I mean, Matt Ryan was their quarterback for 14 years. He's no longer here. So now it's Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder, the rookie out of Cincinnati. I mean, Mariota's, he's going to be the starter. But this is a team in transition. I mean, they've got to fortify a roster that wasn't very good last year. It's getting better, but young players need to learn. They've got a brutal schedule to start the season, so how are they going to get through that? But they got some players now. Drake London, the wide receiver, the rookie out of USC. I mean, the guy's as big as Megatron, right? He's about 6'4", 235. He's got great feet. He was a big-time basketball player. He was a basketball recruit. So great feet. You pair with Kyle Pitts. They've got one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL and A.J. Terrell. So there's a small foundation for them to build around. Now they've got to build it out while they're going through the salary cap prison that they're in. And then next year, they're going to have all the salary cap money to really add to this nucleus that they hope they're building.
That's awesome stuff to hear, though. Yep. I mean, just seeing the
big body targets out there for sure. With Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And, well, obviously Calvin Ridley would have been if he, didn't get that suspension. But they got a bright future down there. They do.
Yeah, I mean, but the key thing, they've got to run the ball. I mean, that's what makes everything work. They were 31st in the NFL in rushing last year.
Right.
They didn't have much speed. I mean, Cordero Patterson was extra special, but you can't put the load of 200-plus carries on him.
Right.
Because he wasn't just running sweeps and trick plays. He was running inside the tackles.
Right.
By the end of the season, he had an ankle, and he just really kind of wore down.
Right.
They got, they added Damian Williams, running back, who we saw really shine for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl against the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
They drafted Tyler Algier out of Brigham Young. He was a dynamic collegiate player. We'll see if it translates over to the NFL. But, they've got to be able to hit some explosive plays because there's no team in the NFL that's going to win thinking that they're going to have 12-play drives to put points on the board every possession.
Right. No doubt.
Yep. And I think when we're going into this AFC West breakdown, though, I mean, the Falcons, who knows, let's see what they do and all that. They got a good core, as said before. See how the quarterbacks go with Marcus Mariota down there. Maybe even Desmond Ridder gets a little bit of time. But with the AFC West breakdown, I think Ben has some thoughts on the Denver Broncos and would like to see what your thoughts are on this.
I do. So, Steve, are you buying into the hype with the Broncos?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Russell Wilson's that dude. I mean, no team in the NFL, including the Packers, asked more of their quarterback than Seattle over the past 6 or 7 years. I mean, it seemed like every game, whether they're leading, whatever, it came down to the wire. And Russell Wilson delivered far more times than not. A clutch quarterback, big arm, has been in the big moment, and now he's surrounded by talent. He always had a good running game in Seattle. And as great as Doug Baldwin and, Jermaine Kearse and some of those guys were, when you look at Jerry Jeudy, when you look at Cortland Sutton, I mean, it sucks that Tim Patrick went down with that injury, but he has got targets. He has got a good offensive line. He's got a defense that can take the ball away. He's always had that. He's always had a defense that's going to give him an extra possession or two a game. But that dude is real. I mean, I know there's some people saying, yeah, he was a product of the overall environment in Seattle. He's the type of guy, when he walks in the room, the players who haven't won but know they've got talent there are going to change their perspective like we believe. Like, this guy's going to get us over the top. And you're going to see players on that team who are good, who couldn't break through. You're going to see them break through. I'm a big believer in Russell Wilson, what they can do in Denver. And I'm also a big believer in Nathaniel Hackett, their new coach, because you talk to people with the Packers, and they're like, yes, we are going to miss him.
Right.
I'm also in on the hype too. The moment I heard "Let's ride Broncos Nation" or Broncos country,
it's corny. Don't even go there.
But I agree with you,
no.
Steve. That's
corny.
Oh man, yeah. Broncos country, though. I mean, see a lot of quarterbacks have done that too. Like at West Virginia, what was it, JT Daniels down there at West Virginia who did that too. And just a lot of people really. I don't know why they're getting into that whole thing, but yeah, and then, but then we'll get into the whole records thing in a little bit. But Brady, how about the Chiefs, man? What do you got in the questions here about the Chiefs?
So obviously the Chiefs, they lose Tyreek Hill, their number one wide receiver target, excluding Travis Kelce, obviously. But so that's a big blow. So who do you see being the standout receiver for the Chiefs this year? Because there's
it'll be Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, look, he's not the home run hitter. He doesn't have the big speed like Tyreek Hill. Who does?
Right.
But Juju's a productive receiver, right? He can catch it in traffic. Andy Reid is one of the best play designers in the NFL, right? He's going to find ways, whether it's a quick passing game, do things off the run action to get, Juju open deep. They've got Valdez-Scantling, a tall target who can really run. He's a guy who can go. So they've got a couple players, Mecole Hardman, another guy who can really go, but he's got to step up now. Right. See, the Chiefs, with the whole Orlando Brown thing playing on the franchise tag, like they've got some potential, weak links in the armor in just terms of attitude and people being able to rise up who haven't been called on to rise up. But the one thing, if you look at the history of Andy Reid, when he's lost key players, other guys have managed to step up and rise to the occasion. And let's not forget, man, they've lost a bunch of guys out of their secondary as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, they go out, they add a couple pieces, they add a couple guys in the draft, in the secondary, but that's where they've got to be better up front. George Karlaftis has got to deliver. They got, is it Trent McDuffie? Yeah, out of the University of Washington. He can play in the slot in the corner, or he can play outside. This dude's a gamer, but he's got no time for a rookie learning curve. When you've got Derek Carr, when you've got Russell Wilson, and, when you've got Justin Herbert coming for you. Because don't think those other three teams don't smell blood in the water when it comes to Kansas City, and the fact that Tyreek is not there and the fact that they've had some turnover on that defense.
Right. It's definitely tough to be a young DB in that division, no doubt.
But here's where the Chiefs have the edge over every other team in that division. Coaching.
Yeah, Andy Reid.
Andy Reid's a Hall of Fame coach. He's everybody else is still trying to make his mark as a legitimate NFL head coach.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, very true stuff. And honestly, like I want to get your thoughts on this though. Andy Reid, where does he rank among the head coaches in the NFL? Is he ranking the top 3, top 5?
Yep.
Where do you see? Top 3.
Top 3. You got Belichick. You got Andy Reid. I mean, now that Sean Payton is gone, it's hard to say, but I got to put Sean McVay in that top 3. I mean, he's a beast, not just as a play designer, but he has a culture where his coaches develop players. You know, look, F them picks, right? When's the last time they had a first-round draft pick? 2016.
Yeah.
Right? So they're developing all these third and fourth-round guys who turn out to be really good players. So he's got that going on top of everything else. So I would put those three at the top, with Mike Tomlin coming in at 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely can't disregard Mike Tomlin one bit or
Nope.
anything like that. What he's done with the Pittsburgh Steelers, worst season being 8-8. That's just incredible what he's doing out there, in Pittsburgh. But another coach that we could also talk about, Brandon Staley, obviously had some, really aggressive coaching. Went for it on 4th down a lot last year. Had very questionable timeout call when they played the Raiders the last game of the season. Yeah, that was a rough one there. But Ben's got another one for you down there about the Chargers, and maybe if they can keep their head straight,
Yeah. So Steve, with the Chargers, their biggest weakness, in my opinion, is themselves. Because one week they will put up, 40, they look like lightning, and then another week they can get blown out by a 3-7 team. To fix the bipolarness of the Chargers, what do you think they need to do? Or what would be the Chargers' key to success, not just on the field, but what do you think the Chargers need to do? Because they're kind of known for that, and we've seen that the last couple of years.
Yeah, that loss to the Texans didn't do it for you, did it, huh?
No. Not one bit.
No, look, they're incredibly talented, but they've been incredibly talented for 20 years. And that's where this expression chargering comes in, whether they miss field goals, whether there's a bad pick, just not being able to deliver. Last year, they couldn't stop the run.
Yeah.
I mean, for a defensive-minded head coach and Brandon Staley, that has to be torture, which is why they went out and they added Sebastian Joseph Day. They got him from the Rams to play their nose tackle. They got another 3 technique, really good run stopper to help keep Kenneth Murray in the middle closed. But you're right. It's that consistency. For as good as Justin Herbert is, there just hasn't been anyone to make the play consistently when they need to make the play. And they've got 15 guys who can make them.
Yep.
I mean, they have got getting J.C. Jackson at corner to play behind Khalil Mack. You can put Khalil Mack and Bosa on the same side because you've just got so much talent there. They drafted Zion Johnson at guard. They nailed it last year, drafting a left tackle out of Northwestern who was just a stud. So the offensive line is good. They've got a really good center. I think Isaiah Spiller, the rookie running back they drafted, is going to be a nice compliment to Austin Eckler. But you're right. It's all right here. Can they? Right. We've seen them beat a team like the Chiefs when the Chiefs are rolling, but can they do it 2 times? Can they win in crunch time in the big moments? And that's the big hurdle for Justin Herbert right now. And that's the big Herbert for this team. But I think if they are able to stop the run much better, again, that was just a major weakness, and hit some explosive plays offensively in the run game. Was it Austin Eckler didn't have a game for more than 20 yards last year for as dynamic of a player as he is? You can't have that in this division when teams can hang 35 on you in a half. So, I mean, everything has got to work because there's going to be some games where these star defensive players don't show. There's going to be some games when Justin Herbert's just not on his mark, and someone's got to step up. They've got the talent to do that. I am a believer in Brandon Staley, but somebody has got to show that this is not going to be the continued jinx of charging that it's been.
Thanks, Steve. That'll really help when I make my floor and my ceiling predictions. So they're just always a wild card. They really are.
Yeah.
They're the ultimate wild card. Look at some of the talent they have had when they had like Rivers, LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Merriman. I mean, they have had so many outstanding players and have not been able to get over the hump for years.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, they just have always had something even minor just get in the way, and it would just be a little pebble in the road and flip over the entire proverbial bus that we call it. That's
all it takes.
Los Angeles Chargers. This is really all it does take. And right. I mean, look at the start of the season. They got the Raiders coming to LA, and that could be a Raiders home game for all we know.
It will be.
Yeah, it definitely will.
I live in LA. It will be.
Saw that Monday night game last year. I mean, that was insane. The Chargers did get the job done, though. And then they got the Chiefs week 2. I mean, they talk about a 4-day week and go play the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. I mean, they got a brutal schedule to start the season out. But, I mean, it's going to be a very early test for those Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, when they called that timeout, I was actually really happy because I'm a Steelers fan. And I really was
I know you were like, please tie this ball game. Please tie this ball game.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I could not believe the fact. I was like, okay, all they got to do is not tie. That's it. Like, and I'm good. And then it looked, when they were about to tie, I'm sitting here just like, I guess maybe we just don't deserve it.
Oh, man.
And then thank God.
Well, I don't know about that one, but man, I know me and my dad were having conversations about this. Even me and Ben were having conversations about this. Just the amount of memes or whatever you want to call it that are just going to come out of the Raiders and Chargers tying in Week 18 would have been just insane to really think about. That would have it just would have been so many laughs thinking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and all that stuff. But I'm not going to dig in on the Steelers like that right now. But who I will talk about is the Raiders, though. Think about this. Devontae Adams comes over and he's with his college teammate Derek Carr, and they'll obviously be playing a lot of pitch and catch there at Allegiant Stadium. You got Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs. You got the pair at defensive end. You got Max Crosby, and now Chandler Jones comes over from Arizona. So the Raiders, obviously, as a 10-7 team, they've looked as though they've really improved in this offseason. But do you think Josh McDaniels will take advantage of his second opportunity as a head coach? Obviously, in Denver, he was 6-0 to start in 2009, and the train really went off the tracks there. And then 2010 obviously didn't go as well. Ends up back in New England. But do you think Josh McDaniels has what it takes, and will he succeed, especially in 2022?
I think he has what it takes. I don't know if it'll happen this year. As crazy as I was all aboard the Raiders train. I think they've got plenty of pieces, but when you look at who's their stud in the secondary, okay, Trevor Mooring, the free safety, or the free safety, heck of a player, right? Abraham, good, strong safety. At corner, what do you got in this division? That's a terrible question to have to ask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've got Crosby and you have Chandler Jones. Let's not forget they had Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue last year. They both got after it.
Oh yeah.
Chandler Jones is good, but it wasn't like Yannick Ngakoue was a buster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but up the middle they got Perryman at linebacker. They got questions on their interior D front, and then their offensive line. What is it now? Josh is very, very good at coaching up people's strengths. Right? If he sees his offensive line is good at doing one thing, or a pairing is good at one thing, he's going to call a play that's going to work that way. Like you said, they've got depth at running back. The Zamir White, the rookie that they drafted out of Georgia, man. I was at the Pro Football Hall of Fame game, and I didn't realize not only does he have the speed like that, but he finishes runs with some pop. Okay, so to be able to rotate guys through like that, they've got some guys who can run it. But is that offensive line going to create enough creases for these guys to do these types of things, or they just got to screen teams to death and hope guys can make things happen that way? So the Raiders have the potential. I think Derek Carr's a good player. Devontae Adams, spectacular. Darren Waller, I think he's going to have a career year, which is saying a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But, he's trying to get that big contract that is yet to arrive. He's the toughest cover in the NFL. I mean, I know Kelsey and Kittle are amazing, but the fact that you can put Waller out wide, how are you going to figure that part out, especially when you got Renfrow inside and you've got Devontae who can play in the slot to dictate certain things? I think Waller's going to be the biggest beneficiary for most of the season, but it's just, can they get a stop when they need to? Can they prevent that big catch and run, from a Keenan Allen or someone like that when they need to, because of, again, some of the personnel things. When you look at their secondary, look at their defensive interior, and look at the offensive interior and compare it to the rest of the division, and you just wonder if it stacks up. It could. They've got the perimeter and the skill pieces, like I said earlier, to hang 35 on you in half. Maybe that's enough, but that's not going to happen for 17 straight weeks.
Yep. I
Agreed.
definitely agree on that. Yep. And I mean, you think about it, I didn't really realize the amount of holes that the Raiders really had toward a team maybe like the Broncos and all. The Broncos have had a very good defense for many years and all, and now having the addition of quarterback Russell Wilson in there. And then the Raiders, on the back end and the secondary is a really big question and all that. I mean, I remember I was at the playoff game. Joe Burrow had an easy 250 on them, just looked really calm and comfortable against the Raiders overall. So, I mean, if they're not going to be able to, to really suffocate any receivers or anything like that, it can be a long day for them, especially with those guys. I mean, all three of those guys are top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League. So, I mean, it's going to be really tough for the Raiders, or we're going to see a lot of strides made from them this season in 2022.
Yeah, maybe Patrick Graham could coach him up. Maybe those guys can get enough pressure to alleviate what looks like personnel deficiencies on the back end. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Niners always, their philosophy is we're not going to pour big money into our secondary because we got a front four that can wrangle with anybody. And maybe that's how the Raiders feel right now. But this AFC West, it is not for the faint of heart, man.
No, it's not at all. It's a very, very exciting division. I just can't wait to see all the games at 4:00. A lot of Monday night games between these teams and all. And but I will say this in 2022, I mean, in every year, there's always a surprise player, but I would like to see who do you think the surprise player or just the guy that just really makes his name for himself in this division will be out of, in 2022?
Well, I mean, that's a fantastic question because everybody who you think is really going to, get it done, you're just not, quite sure about. But I think Zamir White, I think this rookie out of Georgia who came in with less fanfare than James Cook, than some of those guys out of Georgia. I think this is a dude that might be able to blow the top off of things for the Raiders. I think he could be a fantastic player. I like some of the other running backs. Again, I like Isaiah Spiller, who the Chargers got, a bigger running back who finishes runs a great way. But Zamir White, I think, is a name that, you need to keep an eye on because he's a big play guy, but he's also got some toughness that I think some people didn't realize he had.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, he was definitely an explosive player in college and, had that like two to three running back system over at Georgia where they all kind of get fed the ball. I definitely would like to see that again here in Las Vegas. I could definitely see that happening similar to like it was in college for him.
Yeah. Man, I will say this though. I mean, the running backs in Las Vegas. I mean, like I said, there's going to probably be a whole running back by committee thing going on there. Potential with Josh McDaniels being offensive coordinator back in New England. They had a lot of the running back committees going on. He was a very schematical offensive coordinator. So that's going to be really interesting to see. So, with it being a committee, anybody could really pop out and break out this year. So that's I'm excited to see what the Las Vegas Raiders can do when it comes to that. And I even been riding high a lot on McCole Hardman this year. I will say I know the Chiefs have a lot of receivers. They're really deep. They're really deep at the receiver position, I would say. I mean, they got Sky Moore in the draft. They got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, as mentioned before. But I am riding on McCole Hardman. He's been there for the last couple of years. I just can't wait to see what he can do, especially in the deep passing game for the Chiefs. But I will say this.
Here's a sleeper too. Speaking of running backs, and this kind of went overlooked. Kansas City signed Ronald Jones out of Tampa Bay. He really fits in Andy Reid's scheme. He really fits. So I'm interested to see if they can resurrect him a little bit. You don't think of running backs and Andy Reid, but in a swing pass game and things like that. I think Ronald Jones is somebody. When you're talking about a guy who was a forgotten guy in Tampa, it may be a perfect fit for him in Kansas City.
Exactly. I mean, I think, he's obviously down there in Tampa and, he had a lot of guys on there. Leonard Fournette, Giovanni Bernard even came down there last year. So it's just another committee or so. But I think as the season goes on and if the Chiefs are still making that playoff push as we all expect them to do, Rojo will definitely make his way into that and that solidified starting role, potentially with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being there as well. But it will be interesting to see how they're able to balance that backfield out, especially pass catching and running the football between the tackles. But when it comes to pass catching, though, this whole we have a lot of good units in the AFC West. They talk about Denver and talk about with the Chargers and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. The Chiefs have this entire plethora of receivers and tight ends and all. But who do you think is the best, though? Who do you think is the most explosive, the best, whatever you want to call it? Who's the most exciting to watch?
The Raiders. Again, because of Darren Waller. I mean, I love Kelsey. He's probably the best tight end in the NFL. Waller is not a blocker. He's a receiver. But Waller, Renfro, and Devontae Adams, three of the best route runners. Devontae and Waller can get it. Like, people don't realize how fast Darren Waller is. I've seen some games where I would have thrown the ball to him 20 straight times. And I guarantee 15 of those times he's catching the ball and he's probably scoring 2 or 3 of them. Just because he's too big, he's too fast, corners can't cover him. I covered a game against the Dolphins, and I forget the safety who they put on him because that's what they did. He ruined him. It's just he's got that type of capability. Now you can say, okay, we could put Derwin James on him. Okay, well, Hunter Renfro is going to start sneaking up in the middle. Even though the Chargers secondary, I forget the other safety they have there. Heck of a player now. And they get J.C. Jackson. You got is it Horn on the other side? Yep. Is it Horn? Is it J.C. Horn?
Well, I think I'm not too sure who's on the other side of it. I think is Chris Harris still there? I think is he?
No. I think it's J.C. Horn. I hope I'm not putting him on the wrong team. But whoever the other corner is, second-year player, heck of a player too. So their secondary is really good. But I'd have to say, as a whole receiving group, it'd be the Raiders.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You really can't go wrong with the potential, arguably the best receiver in the league, arguably a top 20 to 25 receiver in the league, and then a top 5 for sure tight end in the league. It's kind of insane how good of a unit that is, especially with Derek Carr, who's proven to be a very good quarterback, definitely a franchise QB. Raiders passing offense, it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
See how they can run the ball, though, but pass catching offense is going to be ridiculous this year.
I'm sorry, and I said Horn. Horn's with the Panthers. It's Asante Samuel Jr.
Oh, yes.
Who's the other? I knew it was a former player's son. So Asante Samuel Jr. Heck of a player.
Yep, the former dad, the former Falcon and Eagle, and I remember him back in the early 2000s and all. Very good player. Yep. And then as we get to the obviously we have a little bit of limited time, but as we get to this, the end of the show right here, we're not going to leave without asking you about some AFC West picks. I mean, we got to see how this whole thing shapes out and everything, because there's a lot of, 4 really good teams. How do you see it shaping out in the month of August right now?
Well, I still think the Chiefs are the team to beat. Like I said earlier, Andy Reid is when push comes to shove, I give him the coaching advantage to get his guys ready, when it's most important. So I think Steve Spagnuolo will have that defense in tune by week 6. So Chiefs, Denver. I don't even know how the hell to pick these guys. So I'm not going to give you an order. I'm just going to the Chiefs are the team to beat. I think there will be at least one wild card team out of this division, if not 2. There could be 2 wild card teams. I think the other's coming from the north. Because I think the Bengals, unless they don't have the stomach to compete in prime time, I think they're going to get back one way, shape, or form. I think the Ravens have something in store for us this year, with the Browns quarterback situation being what it is, and the Steelers, they're still going to be a tough out. Both those teams got questions. So I think, you could have 2 teams from the West, 3 teams total, right? Because we have 3 wild card teams now, right?
Yep, we do. Yep.
So 2 come out of the West on top of the division, winner, and 1 come out of the North.
Okay. So, there's obviously one of those teams is obviously going to get left out, but that team at the bottom could definitely be a 7 or 8, maybe even 9-win team. We have no idea how this thing's going to look. With everybody beating each other up every week, it's going to be for some entertaining television, to tell you that. But, as we come to the end of the show, we really appreciate you coming on. Brady, Ben, you guys got any final thoughts or comments to say?
Just one question. What position did you play at Missouri in college?
So I'm so old. I was a defensive end in a 52 defense, which today is called a 34. So I technically would have been an outside linebacker. I was built far differently than I am now.
Okay.
But I wasn't any good. I was on the team. I wore a uniform and got pushed around a lot at practice. So
Right.
I'm not afraid to say that I was probably one of the worst guys on the team. So my career, it was a slow evolving,
Right.
guy. Maybe by my junior year I would have been ready, but
Okay.
out of the gate I was too small.
Oh man, Ben, you got any final thoughts or comments?
I got one, Steve. Besides us, the lovely us, who is the most interesting person you've ever interviewed with?
Ooh,
It's a good one, Ben.
You can take a second.
it's crazy because I did pro boxing, and those guys are always the best. Anyone who beats people up for a living gets beat up for a living. A lot of these guys, most of the guys I talked to, weren't making the big money. They had secondary jobs.
Right.
So some of the stories I got out of that were just remarkable. I've interviewed Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, a lot of these guys. But probably the most interesting dude was Gilbert Arenas when I covered the Washington Wizards. Because Gilbert, man, he's an entertaining dude. I loved Gil. I loved he was a great player. Like, he's so off the chain now, like with his social media posts and all that.
Oh, yeah.
This dude was a great player. One of the best two guards, a point guard in the NFL for a couple years, or NBA before he hurt his knee. But man, that dude, he could tell a story. He did not care. He would say what was on his mind, So I loved Gil. Gil was right there at the top of the list.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, definitely gonna tell it how it is. That's a lot of these players nowadays and all. They're just gonna tell it how it is and all. But man, Steve, we really appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your day. Long day and all that stuff. But you guys go catch Steve on Friday as the Falcons take on the Detroit Lions up in Detroit. He'll be doing the preseason coverage for the Atlanta Falcons up there. But with all the time we have here, we appreciate you guys. Steve, thanks again for coming on.
Appreciate you guys, man. It was a blast.
Yes, sir.
We
yes, sir.
you for sure
Thank
coming
you,
on here and
Steve.
taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yes, sir.
Really appreciate it.
You got it. Take care, guys.
All right. Take care. All right. We'll see you guys.